Remember when Walmart felt unstoppable? When Amazon seemed like it would swallow every store in America? When malls were dying, local shops were disappearing, and it felt like nothing could slow down the two giants that were reshaping the entire retail landscape? For decades, everything pointed toward one conclusion. Retail would keep consolidating until only a few enormous companies remained. Walmart in the physical world, Amazon online, everyone else fighting for whatever leftovers remained. But now, something strange is happening. Something that almost no one saw coming. Because for the first time in modern American history, the giants themselves are retreating.
A retail giant is closing stores. Walmart plans to shut down 269 stores. 154 of them will be in the U.S.
Continue our coverage of the closure of Amazon's facility.
Walmart is quietly closing stores across major cities. Amazon is shutting down warehouses, pausing expansion plans, and pulling out of markets it once aggressively pursued. Target, Whole Foods, CVS, Walgreens, Best Buy, Dollar Tree, they are all shrinking their footprints in areas they once believed were essential. The companies that crushed retail are now becoming the victims of forces even larger than they are. And the question every American should be asking is simple. Why? Why are the biggest retailers in the country closing stores during a time when the population is still growing, when demand for convenience is higher than ever, and when consumer spending remains one of the main drivers of the United States economy? To understand the crisis unfolding today, we have to look back and understand the forces that built modern retail in the first place, the economic foundations that held it together for decades, and the silent shifts that slowly eroded those foundations until even billion-dollar corporations could no longer escape the consequences. For most of the 20th century, American retail was stable. Malls thrived. Local stores lined every neighborhood. Shopping was a simple ritual that brought communities together. Cities and suburbs had predictable patterns of consumer behavior. There was nothing revolutionary about buying a pack of socks at Sears or a gallon of milk at the corner store. Then Walmart arrived and changed everything. Walmart did not simply create bigger stores, it engineered a completely new model of retail. The stores were massive, but the real power was hidden behind the scenes. Walmart built a supply chain so efficient that it could sell products at prices that smaller stores simply could not match. It negotiated directly with manufacturers. It bought in enormous quantities. It pressured suppliers to cut costs. It demanded speed, efficiency, and compliance. By the time other retailers realized what was happening, Walmart had spread across America like a tidal wave. Entire towns reorganized around the arrival of a Walmart. Small stores collapsed, grocery chains folded, malls began to weaken. Consumers did not care about the casualties, they cared about saving money. Then, the next shock came, the rise of Amazon. If Walmart dominated the physical world, Amazon conquered the digital one. Amazon took the most inconvenient part of shopping, the drive, the wait, the search, and eliminated it. In just a few clicks, anything you wanted could arrive at your door in days, then in 2 days, then in 1 day, and sometimes in only a few hours. Consumers were not just impressed, they were transformed. Shopping became instant gratification. Convenience became a requirement, not a luxury. Amazon built warehouses across the country, hired hundreds of thousands of workers, and invested heavily in automation and logistics. At one point, it felt like every town had a new Amazon facility. Retailers scrambled to keep up. Many failed. Some survived, but only by sacrificing margins or completely reinventing themselves. For nearly 2 decades, Walmart and Amazon shaped the American consumer experience. They pushed prices down. They pushed expectations up. They created a world where vast selection and endless convenience felt normal. But something else was happening at the same time. Something far more subtle. Something no one wanted to notice. The foundation that retail depended on was slowly cracking. The American middle class, the engine that kept retail alive, was weakening. Wages were not rising fast enough. housing costs exploded. Medical bills soared. Utilities became more expensive. Student loans grew heavier. Credit cards became a lifeline, not a tool. People still shopped, but they shopped differently. They bought fewer discretionary items. They waited longer between purchases. They prioritized groceries, rent, and essentials. Big purchases were delayed, impulse buying declined, and when consumers spend less, retail suffers. Then inflation hit. The cost of everything went up at once, squeezing families who were already stretched thin. The price of groceries rose at the fastest rate in decades. Rent reached record highs. Insurance costs jumped. Gas became unpredictable. Every corner of the household budget was under pressure. For retailers, this meant fewer transactions, smaller baskets, and thinner margins. But the pressure did not stop there. The cost of operating stores in major cities surged. Rent increased. Insurance costs rose. Labor became more expensive as workers pushed for better wages. Security costs skyrocketed. Cities implemented new regulations that made it harder and more expensive to operate large stores. Then another crisis exploded: organized retail theft. Retailers were not dealing with petty shoplifting. They were dealing with coordinated groups stealing large quantities of merchandise, sometimes thousands of dollars worth in a single hit, and reselling it online. The scale of theft became so large that some retailers publicly warned that they might have to shut down stores. Walmart said theft had reached unprecedented levels. Target revealed hundreds of millions in losses. Walgreens said stores were being hit so frequently they had to lock up basic items behind glass cabinets. CVS said some locations were being drained by theft on a weekly basis. The National Retail Federation reported more than $100 billion in losses due to theft, numbers so large that they shocked even experienced analysts. But theft was only one part of a bigger story. Cities that were once essential for brand visibility and foot traffic became too expensive and too unpredictable to operate in. Places like San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, and Los Angeles saw a wave of store closures. Retailers said the combination of high costs, high theft, and declining foot traffic made those locations unsustainable. Some of the closed stores were not struggling locations. They were high-volume stores that simply could not operate profitably under the new conditions. When Whole Foods closed its flagship San Francisco location after only 1 year, it was not because the store lacked customers. It was because the cost of keeping it open overwhelmed the revenue it generated. Walmart closed multiple stores in major cities, citing a lack of profitability. Walgreens and CVS closed hundreds of pharmacies nationwide. Dollar Tree closed unprofitable stores because rising costs erased their razor-thin margins. Best Buy abandoned stores it once considered perfect markets. It was becoming clear that something fundamental was changing. Retail was not collapsing because people stopped buying. Retail was collapsing because the math behind modern retail no longer worked. The model that made Walmart and Amazon invincible was now becoming a liability. Amazon built its dominance on the promise of free shipping and free returns. But none of those things are truly free. Shipping costs exploded as fuel prices rose. Packaging became more expensive. Warehouses cost more to build and operate. Labor shortages pushed wages up. And Americans returned more online purchases than any country in the world. Those returns cost billions. Amazon realized that the model could not continue indefinitely. It shut down nearly 100 warehouse projects. It paused expansion. It pulled out of certain cities. It raised the price of Prime. It began charging for certain returns. It invested heavily in robots and automation to reduce labor costs. It restructured departments and cut back on experiments. The company that grew relentlessly for 2 decades was suddenly forced to shrink strategically. Walmart faced a different but similar set of pressures. Stores that were profitable for decades became unprofitable almost overnight. And when Walmart says it cannot operate a store without losing money, that is not a small problem. That is a sign that the entire economic environment has shifted. This combination of rising costs, shrinking spending power, and operational challenges led to something no one predicted. Retail deserts. Entire neighborhoods in major cities and rural areas became devoid of basic retail services. No grocery store, no pharmacy, no affordable shopping options. Residents were forced to travel farther to access basic needs. Vulnerable populations suffered the most. Elderly residents with limited transportation, low-income households without cars, people who relied on local pharmacies for medication, communities that depended on affordable stores to survive. When retail disappears, everything suffers. Jobs vanish, foot traffic declines, crime increases, property values fall, healthcare access worsens, community stability erodes. Retail is not just a business, it is part of the social infrastructure that keeps neighborhoods functioning. So what are Walmart and Amazon doing next? They are not giving up, they are evolving. Walmart is shifting towards smaller stores, micro warehouses, online pickup hubs, and automated systems that reduce labor needs. Amazon is investing in predictive shipping, robotics, AI-driven inventory, and new forms of distribution that require fewer large buildings and fewer employees. Both companies are quietly reducing exposure to high-risk markets. Both are focusing on profitability over expansion. Both are becoming more selective about where they operate. Both are building a future that depends less on human workers and more on data and automation. Retail in the future will not look like retail in the past. Stores will be smaller, warehouses will be smarter, deliveries will be faster but less free, returns will be more limited, inventory will be optimized by algorithms, staffing will be reduced, communities will have fewer physical locations and more virtual ones. The long-term consequences of this transformation are enormous. Retail will continue to function. People will still shop. Packages will still arrive. Groceries will still be sold. But access to retail will not be equal. Some neighborhoods will thrive. Others will be left behind. Some consumers will adapt. Others will struggle. The giants are not dying. They are shrinking. And the reality America is facing is uncomfortable. The age of unlimited convenience was never designed to last forever. It relied on cheap labor, cheap fuel, cheap shipping, and stable communities. Those conditions no longer exist. Retail is not collapsing because people stopped caring about shopping. Retail is collapsing because the economic foundation it depended on has cracked. The companies that once dominated the landscape now face the same question that smaller competitors faced years ago. How do you survive when the system you built no longer works the way it used to? Only now, the stakes are far greater. Because this time, it is not just local businesses shutting down. It is not just malls going dark. It is not just small stores closing. It is the giants.